Welcome to the series What is Money, where we will explore the history of means of exchange, from barter to cryptocurrencies. Immediately after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, a new monetary order began to form, one that would be dominated by a single precious metal for over a millennium. This is the story of the rise of gold, a tale of empires, merchants, crusades, and financial innovation that shaped the modern world. The fall of the Western Roman Empire in 476 AD didn't just break an empire, it shattered the very idea of money for half the known world. As Rome's legions and laws vanished, its economic cohesion disintegrated, carving a great monetary divide that would define 1,000 years of history. Two worlds were born from Rome's ashes. A West starved of coin, spiraling into a dark age of barter, and a deep, centuries-long depression marked by a great deflation. This crippling scarcity of precious metals had two primary causes. Gold and silver hemorrhaged out of Europe toward India, where exchange rates were far more favorable, while the collapse of Roman authority meant new mining operations ceased and old knowledge was forgotten. In stark contrast stood the glittering East, where the Roman gold solidus still reigned supreme. The Eastern Roman Empire, Byzantium, successfully maintained its sophisticated gold and silver-based monetary system for centuries, an island of stability in a sea of chaos. This great schism cemented the role of gold as the ultimate monetary reference, the standard against which all value was measured, a legacy that would echo right up to 1971 when the Bretton Woods Agreement was finally abandoned. It was from the desperation of the West's collapse that the first major attempt to reunify this fractured monetary world would be born. For centuries, Europe languished. Knowledge of commerce and production, the bedrock of Roman prosperity, was lost amidst the constant warfare of petty kingdoms. Restoring order seemed impossible until, around the year 800, Charlemagne rose to the challenge. Through military conquest, he brought new lands under his control. Through the exploitation of captured slaves, he found the manpower to rebuild, and through the timely discovery of new mines, he secured a fresh, if limited, supply of precious metals. For a brief, shining moment, he imposed a central monetary system, bringing a fleeting stability to the West. But this new order was built on a fragile foundation. Its fatal flaw was its continued dependence on the East. Gold was still sourced from the Orient, and the crucial exchange rates were still set there, leaving Charlemagne's empire vulnerable despite diplomatic agreements with Byzantium. His system was also dependent on a rising class of Jewish merchants who, following the Arab expansion, had seized control of key trade routes, managing the flow of capital from their new settlement in Narbonne, France. Though Charlemagne won a degree of independence, the exclusive right to mint gold coins remained a sacred prerogative of the emperor in Constantinople. Any minting in the West required his authorization. More importantly, this era saw the definitive death of a revolutionary Roman concept called numisma. The Romans understood that a coin's value could be set by the emperor's authority, not by the weight of the cheap bronze it was made from. Much like the paper in a modern dollar bill is worthless, but the government guarantee gives it value. When this concept vanished, money reverted to being valued only for the metal it contained. It was a massive step backward, abandoning bronze coinage entirely. This shift from state-guaranteed value to raw metal value had profound consequences. It not only made economies vulnerable to merchants but also handed future feudal lords a powerful new weapon, the ability to manipulate wealth by simply altering the metallic composition of their coins. The memory of state-backed currency hadn't completely vanished. Faint attempts to revive a form of numisma would be made in the 14th and 15th centuries, but without conviction, in a world that could no longer support it. With Charlemagne's death, his fragile unity shattered, creating a power vacuum that a new, formidable maritime power was perfectly poised to fill. As Charlemagne's empire crumbled and Byzantium lost territory to Arab forces, the Mediterranean became a chessboard of opportunity. Seizing the moment was a city built on water, the nascent Republic of Venice. With breathtaking audacity, Venice made two decisive moves. First, it openly broke the Byzantine embargo on trade with the Muslim world, positioning itself as the indispensable commercial bridge between Christendom and the Caliphates. Second, and more critically, it took control of the gold-to-silver exchange rate in the West, becoming the financial nexus through which the very value of money was determined. The source of this power was its formidable navy, which allowed it to operate free from the control of any foreign state, the first truly sovereign Italian power since Rome. Venice was not just a trading giant, it was a sophisticated financial actor, using its deep knowledge of monetary mechanics to fend off speculative attacks on its control of the exchange. Venice didn't invent the gold-based system, but it perfected its control in the West, igniting a new, intensified race to the East for the precious metals that now underpinned all European power. This race would soon cloak itself in the righteousness of the cross, escalating into a holy war with a very worldly prize. Beneath the religious pretext of the Crusades lay a powerful convergence of economic interests. The feudal lords, the nascent maritime powers like Venice, and the papacy all shared an overwhelming objective: to break the Arab and Jewish trade monopolies and secure a direct line to Eastern gold. The Arab conquests had placed the world's most vital commercial arteries under their control. Their coinage was in direct competition with Byzantium and the West. A primary motive for the Crusades, therefore, was to seize these trade routes and, most importantly, to capture control of the gold-silver exchange ratio between East and West. The strategic importance of Jerusalem was not merely religious, it was a critical hub for the traffic of precious metals. This economic war also turned inward with a brutal, calculated persecution of Jewish communities across Europe. For centuries, Jewish merchants had been the essential intermediaries between the Christian and Muslim worlds, managing the trade in precious metals, spices, and slaves. The crusading forces aimed to shatter this monopoly. The extermination of the entire civilian population of Jerusalem upon its capture, not just the Jewish inhabitants, was likely seen as a brutal but necessary step to seize the nexus of the gold trade. The West's lust for Eastern gold, cloaked in the righteousness of the cross, had reached a fever pitch. But the ultimate prize wasn't in Muslim-held Jerusalem. It was in the heart of Christendom itself, in a city choked with 1,000 years of accumulated wealth, Constantinople. The Fourth Crusade in 1204 should not be seen as a historical accident, but as the decisive monetary event of the millennium. The sacking of Constantinople by an army of fellow Christians was a strategic masterstroke. With the city's fall, the Byzantine emperor's exclusive, centuries-long prerogative to authorize the minting of gold coins in the West was violently terminated. The power vacuum was immense. In the chaos, state mints sprang up across Europe as feudal lords and kings began striking their own gold without seeking permission. Nominal authority fell to the papacy in Rome, but the Pope lacked the military might to enforce a monopoly, and was forced to delegate the right to mint to a growing number of smaller states, fracturing monetary power across the continent. This political fragmentation was fueled by a massive transfer of wealth. The Crusaders plundered Constantinople of its gold and silver, stripping not just coins but melting down artifacts and public works, shipping the raw metal back to Europe in quantities unseen since the Roman Empire. This sudden, colossal injection of capital is what directly funded the explosion of art and culture we call the Italian Renaissance. Yet while states and lords scrambled for this new gold, a powerful non-state actor born from the Crusades was building a revolutionary financial system that would lay the groundwork for modern banking. The Knights Templar were more than warrior monks. They were the architects of the world's first international banking system. The order acquired enormous wealth and established a vast network of commanderies, or deposits, across Europe and the Holy Land. Upon this infrastructure, they built financial innovations like the letter of change, a simple document allowing a merchant to deposit silver in Paris and redeem it for gold in Jerusalem, eliminating the danger of travel. They adapted this knowledge from Jewish financial practices in the East, such as the member, an early form of paper money. But the true source of their astronomical wealth was not hidden treasure. It was the world's most profitable financial secret. Here is how the Templars built their fortune. A pilgrim in Paris would give them 100 silver coins for his journey. The Templars would give him a letter of credit. When the pilgrim arrived in Jerusalem, he would cash it in and receive 1 gold coin, the standard European exchange rate. But the Templars' secret was their access to the Indian market, where gold was far cheaper relative to silver. They could take those same 100 silver coins from Paris and, through their Eastern network, exchange them for 2 gold coins. They gave one to the pilgrim and kept the other. A 100% risk-free profit on every transaction, repeated thousands of times. This was the engine of their enrichment. The Templars didn't just invent a product, they proved the viability of a trust-based, international financial network that operated beyond the control of any single sovereign. Their system was so revolutionary that other groups, particularly the Venetians and Catalans, quickly copied not just the letter of change, but the entire business model for projecting financial power across borders, transforming their trading houses into the first private banks. While the Templars' fall is shrouded in legend, it is a curious coincidence that their supposed refuges, Scotland and Switzerland, later became world centers of banking innovation and financial secrecy. The collapse of both the Byzantine and Templar systems opened a new, chaotic chapter in the fight for monetary control. The late Middle Ages were defined by a fierce struggle for monetary power, first among feudal lords, and then between those lords and a new class of private bankers. Financial power began to migrate from its cradle in Italy, north to Holland, and finally to England. In the wake of Constantinople's fall, lords across Europe who gained the right to mint coins immediately began to manipulate it. This gave lords a clever way to enrich themselves. Imagine a lord was owed taxes. He could demand payment in older coins, heavy with gold. Then, he would melt them down, add a cheaper metal, and mint two new coins from the gold of one old one, each with the same face value. He would then use these debased, lighter coins to pay his soldiers and debts, effectively doubling his money at his subjects' expense. This new wealth fueled the growth of cities, as lords invested their gold in urban land, transforming fields into valuable city plots. This spurred the rise of communes and a guild economy, an early form of capitalist centralization. Commerce itself was also transforming. At the great medieval trade fairs, like the one in Bruges, merchants moved beyond physical coin. They operated on open accounts, recording all transactions in ledgers and settling the final balances periodically with letters of credit. This wasn't just a matter of convenience. By moving from physical coin to figures in a ledger, the merchants of Bruges and Antwerp created money out of thin air, a form of credit that could fuel commerce at a speed physical gold never could. They had, without knowing it, laid the cornerstone of our modern global financial system. The practices of periodic settlement, clearing balances, and price negotiation led directly from the fairs to the creation of the first stock exchange in Antwerp in 1531. The very word bourse is said to derive from the Van der Bourse, a family of Venetian merchants in Flanders whose home was a meeting place for trade. But this new financial sophistication brought new dangers. The involvement of bankers led to speculative bubbles, culminating in the infamous collapse of tulip prices in Amsterdam. On February 5, 1637, the bubble burst, triggering the first great speculative bust in the history of capitalism. We have traced the epic, centuries-long story of gold's rise to absolute monetary dominance. From the ashes of the Roman Empire, a new world order was forged. This story was shaped by the ambitions of emperors and popes, the strategic cunning of Venetian doges, the revolutionary ingenuity of the Knights Templar, and the calculated greed of feudal lords. Through conquest, trade, and innovation, this relentless pursuit of gold culminated in the creation of the foundational tools of modern finance, international banking, letters of credit, accounting-based money, and eventually, the stock exchange itself. We will explore these new financial systems in our next installment. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. For more stories like this, please like and subscribe to our channel. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode of What is Money?